Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if everybody's ready for this conversation, but those who are, welcome, and I'm glad you're here. I have a question, and before anybody gets nervous, reaches for the Bible, or starts typing in all caps, just think about this with me. Who decided God was a man? For real though, who signed off to that? I've been studying nature, history, biology, spirituality, and looking at things I've experienced in my own life. And I have questions. Most of us were introduced to God as He. That's interesting. When we're talking about a divine source that doesn't have a human body. It's even more interesting when you consider how human life actually enters this world. Through a woman. T. Every king, president, preacher, pope, and man who ever stood somewhere declaring what women should be had to pass through a woman to get here. That doesn't mean God is biologically female. I'm asking why humanity became so comfortable imagining ultimate creative power as male in the first place. Historically, that wasn't always the case. Ancient cultures had powerful representations of the sacred feminine. Goddesses were connected to creation, wisdom, nature, healing, fertility, death, and renewal. Feminine divinity wasn't a strange idea hiding in the corner. It was woven into how people understand existence. So what happened? Over time, societies changed. Religious institutions gained authority. Laws favored men. Poverty moved largely through male lines, and women were denied access to education and positions of influence. Rules governed what women could own, where they could go, what they could say, and what they could do with their own bodies. Women with knowledge became threatening simply because their wisdom existed outside structures controlling society. And when women couldn't be easily directed, we found plenty of words for them. Difficult, wild, hysterical, or even, this is my favorite, witch. Labels like that get thrown around when someone encounters a presence they lack the capacity to stand beside. I know that from my own life. I remember a man trying to hit me one time and talk down to me. I didn't yell or threaten him. Something inside me simply just locked into place. I stood straight up, looked him in the eye, and became completely calm. The whole interaction changed. He backed down. I remember thinking afterward, what in the world was that? Anger doesn't mean losing control. At times, anger shows up when you realize you've been tolerating something that should have ended a long time ago. That day, mine didn't make me destructive. It made me clear. There is something powerful about a woman becoming absolutely certain about where she stands. Women carry energy that is way more powerful than most of us realize. Once you step into it, you can move mountains. You can speak and make things happen. I felt that power in myself. Psychology, adrenaline, spiritual authority, there may be truth in all three, but I know what happened in that room. I changed, and the energy coming towards me changed with me. That's why I've become interested in what women experience later in life too. Spiritual teacher Dr. Christiane Northrup, talks about this exact thing when she looks at women's anger during perimenopause and midlife. She explains that the rage women feel during this time isn't crazy. It's a biological and spiritual wake-up call as women reevaluate relationships and circumstances they've tolerated for years. And that fascinates me. What we call rage is clarity arriving without its manners on. You reach a certain point and start asking questions you should have asked years ago. Why am I still doing this? And that question rearranges your whole life. Then there's the rib. Yep, there's the rib. Oh, yeah, we're going there. I grew up hearing that women came from a man because Eve was created from Adam's rib. I'm not here to tell anybody what they have to believe about Genesis. I'm simply saying I was taught that women came from men. Yet, every man I've ever met came through a woman. A woman was never created to sit under a man or be silenced. We were made to stand right beside them, work with them as equals, and build side by side. Once I noticed that reversal, I couldn't unnotice it. Then I started looking at nature. Let's talk about lions. The male lion gets the mane, the photographs, the statues, the whole MGM situation. Meanwhile, lionesses do much of the cooperative hunting and raising the cubs within the pride. Sir, congratulations on the hair. The ladies have a meeting. And yes, male lions have important roles. That's actually my point. Acknowledging female power doesn't require making males useless. Nature doesn't seem nearly as obsessed with competition as humans are, and nature gets even more strange. Some female animals can reproduce on their own, where development begins from an unfertilized egg. It's been documented in certain sharks, snakes, lizards, fish, and birds. Before anybody gets excited, human women cannot go home, light a candle, put on some Sade, and make a baby by themselves. We know that. But I find biology fascinating because it challenges the assumption that reproduction throughout nature always operates exactly the way we were taught in basic biology class. Genetics gives us another beautiful piece of this story. A son receives his X chromosome from his mother. We also carry mitochondrial DNA that is inherited overwhelmingly throughout the maternal line. Your mother receives hers through the same maternal line, stretching backward generation after generation, until eventually you're staring into ancient human history. There's something almost poetic about that. Part of the biological story inside every one of us carries a maternal trail. Then I learned about the grandmother hypothesis, and this might be one of my favorite parts. Granny made it into the evolutionary theory. Researchers have studied whether grandmothers helped shape human survival because older women could contribute knowledge, food, and care long after their own childbearing years ended. Think about what that says about the value of an older woman. She wasn't finished because she could no longer reproduce. She knew things. Having already survived seasons the younger generation hadn't seen yet, her experience helped keep another generation alive. Traditional cultures understood the importance of elders long before anybody even gave it an academic name. Keep Granny close. She remembers. And that brings me right back to where I started. Women aren't discovering some brand new power. We're remembering something. And I want to be clear, What I mean, because this isn't an argument against men. I respect men. I don't want women standing on men's necks any more than I want men standing on women's. Domination has had a very long trial run. The reviews are terrible. Power does not require somebody underneath it. That's what we've gotten wrong. We've turned leadership into hierarchy and somehow convinced ourselves that somebody had to be lesser for somebody else to matter. I don't believe that. What I'm questioning is why femininity became so closely associated with obedience. How did confidence become unattractive when a woman possessed it? Female anger became instability when she had a damn good reason to be angry. And instincts that protected women for generations became something we were taught to distrust. And why would a woman need anyone standing between herself and the divine? That last question is a huge one here. My relationship with Source is direct. It does not require an okay or an interpretation from another person. Nobody gets to tell me that God can speak through a man more clearly than God can speak through me. That's part of the veil I think women are removing now. I'm not talking about a literal veil or anyone's religious clothing. What I'm speaking of is inherited beliefs. Some women before us survived by being agreeable, keeping family matters inside the family, and knowing when speaking could cost them dearly. I don't judge those women. They survived their time. But I don't live in their time. I don't have to inherit every rule they needed to survive it. That's where I believe the sacred feminine is showing herself again. This isn't about women trying to become men, seeking revenge, or establishing superiority. This is about becoming less willing to abandon ourselves. That's the awakening. I don't need God to be a woman to question why God was presented to me almost entirely as male. Source is beyond sex altogether. What we call masculine and feminine are both expressions far greater than either one. I can leave room for that mystery. What I can no longer do is automatically associate authority with masculinity. History raised the question. Nature added another layer. My own life made it personal. And I suspect women everywhere are beginning to ask their own versions of this same question. Who would I be if I stopped believing I needed somebody else's validation to fully become myself? That's where this gets powerful. Somewhere, a woman is realizing that what she spent years trying to tone down is actually one of her greatest strengths. And once she knows that, convincing her to go back becomes impossible. Divine energy is rising whether anyone likes it or not. She is coming back with a fierce hand and an authority that is going to shake the whole world. So get ready. Mama is coming back. And honey, that is exactly why I created sermons I never heard in church. Because this right here is definitely a sermon I ain't heard no Sunday morning. Thanks for listening.
Before the chapters, before the shame, before they carved the rules in someone else's name, she was breath, she was land, she was voice without demand. Before they lit the fires in fear, she was whispering, "You're safe here." No throne, no crown, just open hands. She built this world with silent plans. They rewrote her into shadow, but her song still stands. She was first, don't get it twisted. Before the robes, before the system, before the guilt, before the blame. She birthed the sun without your name. She didn't need to be adored. She was the miracle we were looking for. She didn't come to rule, she came to rise. Taught the moon how to pull the tides. She bled gold, not for pain but for bloom. Turned empty in the womb and silence in the room. She made the dark a sacred place. Long before the fall from grace, they painted over every truth, but brushstrokes never hide the root. And I can feel her still in me and you. She was first, don't call it myth. You feel her in your bones like this. Before the cross, before